Welcome back, everyone, to Between the Lines. And as you've seen, we're back for the first time in 4 or 5 months. I'm excited to be back. How about you guys? We got
Danny.
And we're finally back. Sorry for the long hiatus. We just had a lot. It's been senior year of high school. You got stuff to do, right?
Basketball.
But yeah. Our sports are sort of done, at least for winter sports, but we got a big lacrosse game today. How you feel about that? You excited?
We're feeling good.
First game of the season?
First game of the season, rival town, good stuff.
What position you playing today?
A little bit of midi, a little bit of defense,
I like
midi.
4 o'clock today. Good luck today, all right? But we're going to record this and hopefully set this in stone for a good day, all right? But today we got a special episode, especially with our first day being back. We're just going to go through some free agency moves, trades, stuff like that, especially in the NFL. It's going to be a fun one. We'll start in alphabetical order, just go down the list. Going to be a long one for you guys. And, of course, let's tune in. Thank you again for listening, whether it be on Spotify, Apple Music, and if you're watching this on YouTube. Should have some merch on right now. I don't know where Jad's is, but we got some Between the Lines merch. It's probably the first you've seen, unless you're following the Instagram. And if you're not already, follow at BTL Pod Official. Link is in our bios. And we'll just start off by going into the Arizona Cardinals, who made a couple of low-key moves. They re-signed James Conner to a 3-year, $21 million contract. They brought back Zach Ertz on a 3-year deal, $31 million. And they brought in Vikings linebacker Nick Vigil. And the NFC West, we'll get into the Rams, but the NFC West, I think, has exponentially gotten better. So where do you think the Cardinals stand in the NFC West right now?
Definitely not at the top. I have the Rams up there. Seahawks got worse, and who's the other team?
49ers.
Niners, yeah. I would say that they're 3. I would say they're behind the Niners, assuming Trey Lance plays well, and obviously behind the Rams, who only got better, even though they won the Super Bowl.
You mentioned Trey Lance. 49ers still have yet to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Yep. Do you think that they want to save him for a draft night trade, or how do you think they address that?
They were in a tough position, and I think in retrospect, they regret trading up for Trey Lance. Even at the time, I didn't think that was a great move. And now they feel the pressure to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, even though he just brought them to the NFC Championship game. And wasn't that bad. The team, I don't think, really deserved to get there. So I think the Cardinals, in terms of how this relates to them, it's going to come down to Kyler Murray. It's going to come down to their guys,
And I know we're talking about the Cardinals, but actually, we'll save the 49ers talk. But, Jad, what do you think the Cardinals have in store for next year? Do you think DeAndre Hopkins comes back, guns blazing? How do they bounce back from a sort of a down season?
Yeah. So I did trade for DeAndre Hopkins last year in fantasy, and we all know how that went for me.
I traded them to him.
Yeah.
He did. So,
By the way, I won fantasy.
Yeah, happy for you, man. Okay, so moving on. For some of their additions, Jeff Gladney, he was a first-round pick a couple of years ago, right?
I believe so.
Not totally sure what happened with him, but we'll see what that.
He got arrested on domestic violence.
Not great there,
Just got let off, though, so.
They spent a lot of money for Connor and Ertz. I don't think they improved that much, and I think in that division there, obviously the Rams did what they did, and the 49ers have a young team there, so they have some natural improvement. So who knows? I wouldn't just lock them in at 3. I could see them having maybe going up to 2, but not going to 4. So I think either 2 or 3 for them there.
One take I'd have is, especially with Christian Kirk leaving, I would have Rondale Moore having a breakout year this year.
I like that.
He had a better year than Kirk as a 2 when Kirk was the 1 last year.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised at all if I see Rondale Moore put up 70 catches for 900, 1,000 yards, especially with D-Hop getting most of the attention on D.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's gonna have a lot to do with Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Let's see what kind of jump he can make. If he can make a jump there, I could see him getting over the 49ers.
Kyler played like an MVP last year for most of the season, so I wouldn't be surprised if he continues that play.
Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, so there's our thoughts on the Cardinals. We'll move on to the Atlanta Falcons, who probably had one of the weirdest off seasons of the year. Obviously, you had Calvin Ridley being suspended back in March for the entire 2022 season. They traded Matt Ryan to the Colts for some draft picks. They brought in Marcus Mariota and re-signed Cordell Patterson to a pretty cheap deal, I might add. Yeah. Cordell Patterson was an All-Pro last year, who's now only making $5.5 million, who just re-signed. I think that's, honestly, a bit of a steal if you ask me. They brought back Younghoe Koo. They brought in Casey Hayward, which I really like.
He's a
guy. I love Casey Hayward. They also got some edge help as well. They brought in Lorenzo Carter from the Giants. But I think they sit in the top 5, I believe. I think they have the 5th or 4th pick. Sorry about that. But where do you think
Falcons?
Yeah, the Falcons.
No, they have like the 8th pick.
Really?
I think they have the 8th pick.
Okay.
So
they have a top 10 pick regardless.
Yeah.
What needs do you think they address? I'll start with Jad on this one.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of guessing they go quarterback. I don't know if I would totally agree with it. I know we got into this for a while there, for this mock draft. I think maybe one quarterback goes in the top 10. I'm not a fan of teams going quarterback just because they got a need there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if there was a team to need a quarterback, it's either the Falcons or the Seahawks maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So although I'm not a big fan of this quarterback draft, I think Malik Willis is a guy, but I think maybe quarterback for the Falcons. I think they had the worst pass rush in the league last year, if I'm not mistaken.
they
so
They did.
Kayvon Thibodeau has just dropped down
He
boards for
has.
who knows
Yeah.
why. So if they got their hands on Kayvon Thibodeau, it'd be big time. They have the 8th pick, so I don't think he'll drop to 8th, but I think Kayvon Thibodeau would be a guy.
I've honestly seen mocks of Thibodeau slipping down to 12, 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I've also seen mocks of Trayvon Walker going to the Falcons. He's a hometown guy. Maybe we see a little edge action, maybe bolster the defense.
They
for
could also
Atlanta.
go at wide receiver there too. I
Mhm.
could see.
Yeah, I could see.
I mean, that's the thing. The Falcons are just in such a position, like, they have holes everywhere, right? And that includes the quarterback position. Obviously, quarterback's the most important position. If I was the Falcons, I would draft best player available, be it receiver,
I like that.
edge rusher. They did just bring in Marcus Mariota. They traded Matt Ryan, and Mariota is a bridge gap quarterback, so it could be that they are planning on drafting a quarterback, developing him for 1 year behind Mariota, and then giving him the reins the following year. But if I were the Falcons, given that they have so many holes, I would just draft best player available. It was also the reason why I didn't think they should trade for Deshaun Watson, because they're not a quarterback away.
Exactly. And especially with the Saints now trading, they have 2 first-round picks
Yep.
in that in the draft now.
We'll talk
So maybe
about
they go quarterback. So you look at other teams in that division that are sort of building around a quarterback right there.
that. Panthers might get
Panthers
a
might.
quarterback.
And the Falcons, I just don't think are ready at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have like Garrett Wilson at 8 there, you might take him there. Just maybe give Mariota some help. And one other possibility I had was maybe just trade down, try to get draft picks because you don't need help right now.
And
You're
they
not,
need a
like-
wide receiver. You're not going receiver early.
You maybe go Olave at
Yeah.
20 something. You
Right.
help like say the Colts want to move up or something like that. You trade and maybe get draft picks for the future because the Eagles just got a first-round pick. They got 2 first-round picks in that trade yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Well, the Eagles had picks 15, 16, 19. They traded 16 and 19 for 18 and then a
next
2023
year.
pick
then
and like
other picks
a couple
like
other
that,
ones.
yeah.
Yeah, 2024
So I think if the
second.
Falcons were to do something like that, maybe you trade your first this year, number 8, to like a team picking in the 20s or maybe late teens
Yep.
for that pick, a third, maybe a pick next year. Sort of can help out both Arthur Smith, Mariota, and just the whole team in general.
Yeah, I think with the Falcons, they're in this stage of their rebuild where you gotta break everything down 1st.
Mhm.
Like they've only been rebuilding really for like a year.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the first year they traded Matt Ryan,
Mhm.
so I think they gotta break it all down, get some young talent in there, and then next year go for their quarterback.
Yeah, all right. Then we'll wrap up the Falcons and move on to an AFC team and go to the Baltimore Ravens, who most notably signed Marcus Peters to a 5-year, $70 million deal, which I really like.
Marcus
for the,
Williams.
Marcus, what did I say?
Peters.
Oh, I meant Marcus Williams. Excuse me. And they brought in Michael Pierce. They brought in Morgan Moses, and they re-signed Patrick Ricard. They did some other small things. But these are the main 4 moves. And the AFC North got a lot better.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson goes to the Browns.
Yeah.
Even though Big Ben retires, I think Mitch Trubisky steps in and does pretty solid. The Bengals are still the Bengals. I mean, they got better a lot. Their O-line's now really good. Their defense is still pretty solid, even though they lost some guys. And the Ravens are just there. Like, where do you see the Ravens? They came in second last year. Do you think they make that jump to first?
I say 2-1. I think that division can go any which way between the Browns, the Ravens, and the Bengals.
Okay.
I like the Marcus Williams signing. I think it was actually pretty good value there at 5 year, $70 million.
Mhm.
But I don't think they improved that much to really move the needle.
Okay.
You're going to get back J.K. Dobbins,
Yep.
and you're going to improve that. You get back Gus Edwards as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Hopefully Lamar Jackson is, more healthy this year.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can make that jump. I like the Ravens. So
Yeah. What do you, Jen?
Yeah, I think we've been hearing a lot out of Baltimore going on with Lamar.
Mhm.
I think he's been grinding. I think he's sick. He was an MVP a couple years ago, and I think everyone forgot about that last year. This is the lowest anyone's been on Lamar, and therefore been on the Ravens.
Mhm.
So I know he stopped the contract negotiations.
He did.
And I was thinking, like, that's a risky move, because if he gets hurt, he's going to lose a lot of money.
Exactly.
So I think that just shows how devoted they are. and how he wants to have a big year. So I'm high on the Ravens. I think they could. I'd honestly say they compete for the top of that conference. I think the Browns are obviously going to be a problem, but the Browns are going to Brown.
Be a
so
hard conference next year, I'll tell you that. But yeah, just really light on the Ravens. We'll move on to the Buffalo Bills, who actually got probably some of the most moves of this offseason. They brought in Jamison Crowder, they got Duke Johnson, and obviously they signed Von Miller to that large deal, 6 years, $120 million. The Bills, I think, still stay at the top of the AFC East, even though the AFC East really got better. I'm gonna say that they got a lot better. Buffalo Bills got depth, also bringing in Tim Settle, Jordan Phillips, and Markel Lee. I think who all are going to be pretty good depth players. But do you think, again, the needle, do you think it shifts any which way for the Bills, or do they just stay there?
I think it does. I think Von Miller's a good player. Now, I saw Von Miller left the Rams, and I'm like, why would he leave the Rams? He just won a Super Bowl. And then I saw the contract, and I'm like, oh, I understand why. This guy's going to be getting paid an absurd amount of money until he's, I think, 36, 37 years old.
Actually.
38.
He'll be
55.
He'll be paid about $20 million when he's 38.
Yeah, so, I mean, and the Bills are still a good team, so it was really a no-brainer. Look, if the Bills can win a Super Bowl, you got to say it's worth it.
Exactly.
But I don't know. I think Von Miller's a good player. I don't think he's what he was, but I think he's going to make a good impact there.
yeah, this might be a bit of a bomb here. It might. But I think this Buffalo Bills team is due for their kind of hiccup in the road. Their rebuild here has kind of been flawless. I think Josh Allen has quickly become the most overrated player in the NFL. I think that, he can throw it 70 yards, but if it's not anywhere close to your receiver, who cares? He does not have the arm accuracy of Mahomes, or I would honestly say of a Herbert.
Did you watch that Chiefs-Bills game, though?
He has his moments, but he is not the second best quarterback in the NFL, and I think this Bills team, they are completely all in, and once there's expectations, stuff gets real. So I know this team on paper looks like a team that's just bound to take the Chiefs spot as the guy to beat, but I would honestly say I could see a world where it kind of doesn't work out like that. Von Miller ends up looking like one of the worst contracts, if not the worst contracts in the NFL. Josh Allen can't compete with those other defenses, those other quarterbacks that got drafted to his conference. So I know it all looks good as of now. It looks perfect, you could even say, but I'm not as high on the Bills, man.
All right, that's a bit of a bold take. We'll move on to our next team who we have here, the Panthers. So the Carolina Panthers, who obviously have been in some quarterback talks this offseason, they were in the Deshaun Watson news. They've been in news for Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, and it's obviously been probably the position that has been talked about the most down in North Carolina.
Yeah.
But do you still think they need to address the position, or do you think they give Sam Darnold one more year?
No, I think they need to address the position, and I think that they will in the draft because Matt Rule and then the GM, who I don't know his name, they're on their last straw right now. So they need to make a move, a big move, that could get them over the top and have them make the playoffs. I think they have a solid supporting cast. I think they have a solid line. They got Bradley Bozeman. They got who's the other guy that they got? Austin Corbett on the O-line. I think they re-signed Dante Jackson, brought in Xavier Woods. I think they made some really solid moves. I think they have good young players on both sides of the ball. I think at this point they just needed a quarterback. That was one of the teams where I liked it, Deshaun Watson trade, because I think that they could be a quarterback away.
Yeah, they definitely got a little better on the defensive side. I like the Corey Littleton signing. I think he could be like a Thomas Davis 2.0 if you go back to that 2015, 2014 years. He's a great athlete. They re-signed Dante Jackson, obviously one of the fastest guys. Brought in Matt Ioannidis on a cheap deal. A little bit of a reverse, Washington to Carolina.
Yeah.
But, Jed, what are your thoughts on the Panthers at least?
I'm going to double down on what I said earlier. I don't think they should be drafting quarterback in this draft, particularly. I think they are 100% a roster that is capable of competing, and I think they clearly want to compete. We saw with Stephon Gilmore. I think this is a team that really thinks they should be up there. So I don't think drafting a quarterback this draft, having them underwhelm and miss the playoffs again, then having them give up on him the following year, I think that'd just be a waste of a pick. So I'm thinking just solidify their team, maybe go D-line, maybe go O-line, who knows, and wait and trade for a quarterback next year, just because they're a team that can compete. So I think the next quarterback or a couple of quarterbacks that are available on the market, maybe, I don't know, there's a number of names.
Derek Carr could be up.
Derek Carr, who knows? So I think they're definitely a team that should look to trade for a veteran quarterback, and we've seen it work now with Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
So it's not. Although it's a risk, I think it's a very valid strategy that they should use.
And this offseason's probably been the most hectic in terms of quarterback movement. I think we've seen close to 10 quarterbacks change teams.
Yeah.
So I think if anything, now would have been the best time. I'm going to disagree with you. I think now would have been the best time for the Panthers to make a move for a quarterback. But I still think that they're not going to make any sort of movement on that spectrum of how far they go in the NFC playoffs or even if they make the playoffs. We'll move on to another NFC team. We'll go to the Chicago Bears, who kind of had a mediocre offseason. They didn't really improve that much. I still think they're kind of a mid-team. Even though the Packers got really worse, the Vikings didn't do anything, the Lions did some stuff. That whole division's sort of become kind of irrelevant now because the only news you had was Rodgers re-signing. Obviously, you got Devontae Adams leaving, but nothing else really happened. The Packers lost their top two guys, but the Bears didn't do anything to help their secondary. Or they didn't do anything to help their receiving core. They lost
quickly
Allen
become the
Robinson.
worst division in the NFL.
Yeah, I think the NFC North is probably the worst division in the NFL now. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
The worst might be pushing it. I think even possibly that. What's the division? The AFC. Is it the AFC South?
The Texans and Jags.
Yeah, that one I think is the worst.
Yeah,
and even with the Colts, Matt Ryan is a guy.
Yeah.
But I'm just excited to see their new coach because Matt Nagy just wasn't the guy.
Yeah.
How Matt Eberflus, is that how you say his name?
Colts guy.
Yeah. How he takes over with Justin Fields and makes an impact with that. That's really all I'm excited to see. But
do you think we see a Justin Fields breakout season? Even though
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
How do you think the Bears need to address in the draft? Do you think they go receiver? How do they?
O-line.
O-line.
I'd definitely say O-line. I mean, protect your guy back there.
I like that.
I
got
think
a lot of good tackles in the draft, especially.
Yeah, O-line is a pretty deep draft, I think. You could maybe go a receiver, maybe a Chris Olave.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're picking at 20. I might be wrong.
Bears.
No,
something like that.
maybe earlier than that.
Something like that.
I'm not positive.
Yeah, but I think an O-line pick would be good.
Yeah.
Let's see what they're picking at. They're picking.
What did they get? They got a second for Khalil Mack, right?
Yeah,
If I'm
I
not.
totally forgot about Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
Traded,
Right.
Oh my God. So yeah. Oh, they don't even have a first round pick this year.
They probably
They
traded it
should.
for Khalil.
You're right. Yeah, you're right about that. So yeah, we'll move on from the Bears, who there's nothing really much to talk about. We'll go to the Bengals, who probably had one of the best off seasons in the AFC. It's up there with the Chargers and Dolphins. They boosted their O-line. They got Alex Kappa, Ted Karras, and Lyle Collins.
Yep.
They brought in some tight end help. They signed Hayden Hurst after Uzama left for the Jets. They re-signed Eli Apple, and obviously the biggest move was probably franchise tagging Jesse Bates.
Yep.
So I still have them at the top of the AFC North. I think they're still the team to beat in that division. So what are your thoughts? I'll go to you, Jed, about that.
Yeah, I mean, again, might be a bit of a take, but I don't think that this is a better football team than the Ravens, fully healthy.
Wow.
I don't think that that's even that crazy to say with what the Ravens went through injury-wise last year. I mean, teams like this, and I'd say teams like the Rams, they make you wonder, what is my team doing if this team has money to get all these players? I mean, even more the Rams. I guess they have a quarterback on a rookie contract, so it makes sense, but they're just doing everything right.
Yeah.
You know, I think this is a team that's they should, just like the Bills, they should be set up for another big year. But we see it every time. There's always teams that disappoint. That gets too high of a high that's equal. Their goal next year should not be getting back to the Super Bowl. That's such, I think we all kind of accepted they probably weren't the best team to make it to the Super Bowl in the AFC last year. I think both the Bills and Chiefs, honestly, are better football teams. So I think that this team ought to have a worse season next year than they did last year. So, I mean, we'll see. Joe Burrow. So,
Joe Burrow could disappoint. What do you think, Dan?
I mean, I would agree. I think that they will have a worse season than they did last year. I don't think they'll get back to the Super Bowl, but the fact that they got to the Super Bowl and they have a quarterback on a rookie deal who's playing very good, you have to go all in.
Yeah.
So you have to bolster that O-line, you have to improve that defense, you have to bring back those guys. They had no choice but to do this, and I think it was the right move, whether it works out or not.
Yeah, and they had the most salary cap going into this offseason, and they made sure that they spent all that. And we'll move on from the Bengals to probably talk about the team that made the biggest move of this offseason, which was trading for Deshaun Watson to go to the Cleveland Browns. They also traded for Amari Cooper.
Yep.
They re-signed Kareem Hunt. And where do you think the Browns sort of stand in the AFC right now?
1 or 2 to me.
In the division? In the conference?
Oh, in the conference? I think they'll make the playoffs.
Okay.
Maybe as a wild card. They might not win the division. They're definitely going to be keep competing for the division. I think that their defense is underrated. I think they have a good defense. They have good young players on the defense. I think they were a team that was a quarterback away. They bring in Amari Cooper, who is now their wide receiver 1, better than Odell and Jarvis Landry were. And, I like it. So, I think that they're a team that will make the playoffs.
Still got Baker Mayfield on the roster, though.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, we'll see.
You got to try to trade him. You can't keep him as backup. They brought in Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, so they obviously have their plan at quarterback.
Yeah.
They got their guys. So now you just got Baker just sitting at home doing God.
Yeah, I saw an article. They're looking for a second and the team to take Baker's whole cap for Baker, which I don't think.
I don't see any team wanting a set.
Yeah, like maybe the
that.
Seahawks, maybe. They're just
really
asking for too much, and they'll eventually die down. I could see even going for like a late 3rd, 4th in this draft.
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna like it, but you have to swallow that pill.
Where like could Baker go?
I like Seahawks, definitely.
Seahawks, but
I was thinking Colts before they traded for Baker.
Like every team I feel has a starter for next year that they already like.
Other than the Seahawks.
Yeah. Other than like the Panthers.
Even
Lions,
the Falcons. The Falcons chose Mariota.
Yeah. Maybe the Falcons.
Yeah. Lions I could see, but like the Lions are they're picking at 2. I feel like they're like Dan Campbell is just like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He won't want Baker Mayfield in that environment. He's like not a kneecap biter guy. I don't know. Like
I'm at the same time, I don't really agree with how low everyone is on Baker. I don't think it's crazy to say that he doesn't have starting quarterback potential still.
Yeah, that's not crazy.
I think he should be a starter, but I don't think people are seeing him as a franchise quarterback.
Exactly.
So he's kind of in that gray area between the two.
See, but the thing is, what changed from 2 years ago when I think everyone pretty much did see him as
I could see the Giants. I just thought of that.
He had like a ton of injuries last year, which kind of killed him.
He played through a torn.
But it's not worth for like the Giants to trade for him. Like, is he really that much of an upgrade over Daniel Jones? Like, it's just not worth it. No, it's not.
A second?
Second
Not
round
a
pick
second.
when
No,
you
no,
have
no,
a
no.
guy?
I'm not saying a second.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's worth giving him a shot.
Yeah, but like if you're the Giants, we'll go into that later. But like, you've been going through 3 years of okay, we'll just give him another shot for Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Do you really want to do that with Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That was good. Good talk about the Browns. We'll go on to the Cowboys, who really sort of struggled. They tried to trade for Devontae Parker just yesterday or a couple days ago. They signed James Washington. They lost Amari Cooper. So now you have a receiving core of CeeDee Lamb at the 1. You got Gallup and then Washington. They lost Cedric Wilson to the Dolphins. They brought back Leighton Vander Esch on a $2 million deal. I don't know how they did it for that cheap. And that was really the biggest move, I'd say. They got Malik Hooker back, Jaron Kearse back, but I mean, nothing really that pops off. They almost got Randy Gregory before he went to the Broncos, but they almost brought him back. Excuse me, but I think they've had sort of a down off season. I think they didn't really improve that much.
No, I think they got worse, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they're still going to be a team that's going to compete in that division.
Do you
if
think
not
it's
win.
just because they have like Dak at QB?
Yeah, Dak, CeeDee Lamb's a good player.
Better than any other team.
Yeah, they have Micah Parsons. They got playmakers on defense.
Yeah.
And they still have the draft. So
I think a key word you kept bringing up there was almost. They almost got Parker.
Yeah.
They almost got, who was the other guy?
Randy Gregory.
A lot of almost out of Dallas here. So, I think in that division, it won't have too much of an effect on them, but no one's saying Dallas is going to the Super Bowl here. So it's kind of just another year.
If I were to have a team to beat, I'd put the Eagles as the team to beat in the NFC East right now.
Really?
I wouldn't put the Cowboys up there.
I don't think I would put the Eagles. I'm an Eagles fan. I don't think I'd put the Eagles up there.
I think I would. We'll get into
That's
that.
a bit of a bold
We'll
take.
get up there. We'll get to that.
But we'll go on to the Broncos.
I think the
who
Cowboys are
probably
still the team to beat. But keep
All
going.
right. We'll go to the Broncos, though, who probably made another one of the biggest moves of the offseason, trading for Russell Wilson. They gave a slew of picks and players for Russell Wilson. But we'll talk about the rest of their signings. But do you think that trade was worth it looking at it like right now?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think that they are a team that you can consider to be a quarterback away.
Okay.
I think they improved the defense as well. They brought in Randy Gregory, like we mentioned. Sure. They brought in Alex Singleton, who, as an Eagles fan, I know he's a tackle machine. So he's a solid player. I think that they got solid players on both sides of the ball, and I think that they can definitely compete.
I think
for
they
Super Bowl.
have one of the best secondaries in the league.
Yeah.
I'd say they have great corners, got really good safeties up top, and what's his name? A really good safety, Justin Simmons.
Yeah.
I think he's probably a top 3 safety in the league. And their defense is still pretty solid, and it was just their offense again. Quarterback away, they traded away Drew Lock, bringing Russell Wilson. You got Judy, you got Cortland Sutton, and KJ Hamler's coming off an injury. And you did trade away Noah Fant, so you lose one weapon. But that's something you can easily replace.
Yeah.
And they still got Melvin Gordon. Do they have Melvin Gordon? I don't think they do. But they got
Javonte Williams.
That's what they got.
He's a dog.
He is a dog.
He is
I
a
like
dog.
him a lot.
I'm going to be a fantasy sleeper next year.
Yeah.
I think so.
For me, they did get, we haven't brought up, they got Nathaniel Hackett. And there's as many quarterbacks removing. Same thing with head coaches. And I think we're going to keep seeing that years to come. So, yeah, we'll see what he can do. You know, he was the assistant caller over there for Aaron Rodgers. So, you know, we'll see what he can do with Russ. And I think Russ has become slept on a ton. But, you know, good stuff out of Denver.
Yeah, Russ didn't really have a great year. Obviously, he was playing through an injury with his finger. But I think Seattle was really
I'm
messed
excited
up.
to watch.
Seattle was really messed up, and they're they're going into their rebuild. So we'll see how they do. We'll get into them. But we'll go to the Detroit Lions, who had a decent offseason. They're picking at number 2 in the draft, right behind the Jaguars. Where do you think they first address? You could probably have Hutchinson going number 1. I think it's probably unanimous, even though it's like I don't think he should. But where do you think the Lions go in the draft?
I would say not. I think their O-line's solid, right? They don't really need an O-lineman. I want to say best player available, but it's not really clear who the best player available is in the draft. They could go quarterback. I think it would absolutely be a reach to take one at 2.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would be a horrible idea, just because they do need something. But you know, they might be at the top of the draft next year, and there's much better quarterback talent in next year's draft. So I think they go maybe edge rusher, Thibodeau, maybe Trayvon Walker, even though I'm not the biggest fan of him, but. Yeah, I mean, it can go. I've seen Kyle Hamilton even, but I think that's a stretch too.
Yeah. You mentioned quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if they take like Malik Willis at 2.
I would.
They make Jared Goff like a bridge guy.
Yeah.
Because there's only like 1 or 2 years left on Jared Goff's deal. You can easily deal him out easily, but you can deal him out next year. And with the trades that I've been seeing, he would probably go for like a 5th or a 6th, and they'd be happy with that.
Right.
So, Jad, I'll ask you your take on the Lions.
Yeah, I do like DJ Chark. I don't really know what happened to him. I remember he used to be seen as the next wide receiver up. So he kind of has fallen off a bit. So I think that's a massive move for the Lions. Just to see what else they can squeeze out of him. I think these Lions are a trade down candidate in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if they just go for maybe get a late first and a second out of it. I mean, there's definitely going to be teams that want to trade up if they have a guy that they have in mind.
I can see the Saints, possibly.
Maybe the Saints. You know, we'll see. But I could definitely see them trading down.
So the Lions, I think, could be poised to have like definitely an improvement from last year. I think they got better, and the teams in the NFC North got worse. I wouldn't be surprised if they get around 7 wins next year. It's not ridiculous to say that. It's not ridiculous.
And with everyone, probably I'd say every single team for the most part, other than like the Texans playing for the short term.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the worst idea for a team to go for the long term.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll stick with the NFC North. We'll go to the Green Bay Packers. Probably had one of the biggest moves. One of the weirdest, obviously. They lost their offensive coordinator. They lost the best receiver in the NFL. They almost lost one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. They thankfully got him back, I guess. But they re-signed Devondre Campbell to a really big deal. They brought back Preston Smith. They lost Zadarius Smith to a division rival. And I think they really haven't done anything other than that. They brought Jaron Reed in from the Chiefs. They got Robert Tonyan back to solidify tight end. But the Packers are just sort of in that area where, like, where do you go from here? Because, just in the...
They need a rebuild, and that's why I was surprised that they didn't let Rodgers go. Obviously, when you have a player like Aaron Rodgers, he's going to continue to keep you in contention. He's going to continue to get you back to the playoffs. But after that, once you start playing those elite teams, you're not going to go very far. So they're kind of in purgatory. I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl for the rest of Rodgers' career.
Okay.
And, I thought Rodgers should have left for both his benefit and the Packers' benefit.
Yeah. I actually thought he should have gone to the Broncos.
Yeah.
That would have been the best spot for him. Okay, Jay.
Yeah, the Green Bay Packers have the worst future in the NFL.
Arguably.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing with Jordan Love. Who knows? Wasted a first-round pick there.
Yep.
they just lost Adams for like what was it?
First and second.
They should have just traded him earlier on if they thought they might be able to lose him, which was kind of reported on. They knew they were losing him, and Aaron Rodgers also knew they were losing him.
Yeah.
They should have traded him earlier and gotten a Tyreek Hill kind of package back for him, but even better. So I'm sorry, Theo, but I don't know what's going on over there in Green Bay. And I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I guess Rodgers, I like Rodgers, fun guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this kind of just shows he's in it for the money at this point in his career.
Yeah. I still think that they're a playoff team just because they're gonna be the 4th seed probably, I think. On the division. And now we'll move on to the Houston Texans, who traded away one of the most notable quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson. They brought in Chris Conley. They brought in Dario Gumbawale. They got Farrell Brown, I think was a pretty good signing as tight end. They brought in Christian Kirksey. They also got Jalen Reeves-Maybin. Some good depth, I think they got. And probably their biggest signing was bringing in Desmond King. Or even who else they got?
Really nothing, dude.
Malik Collins. Just a lot of depth.
Who would want to go there?
Just a lot of depth over here.
But that's the thing. They're another team where they have nothing. Like the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
They just need to draft the best player available. They're picking at 3. Draft the best player available. Whether that is, you think that is Evan Neal. It probably will be Evan Neal. Maybe Aquanu. Maybe Hutchinson if he's there. Thibodeau.
Yeah.
But they just have nothing. They need every single position. And,
we hear they want to build around Davis Mills, which honestly
he was
probably the 3rd best rookie quarterback last year.
Yeah, I have to agree.
So, we'll see how that goes. And honestly, with Davis Mills, I think he might have been the most impressive rookie quarterback.
It was like, what,
a
third round pick? Who probably played like
he had no
I think they're going to be picking at the top of the draft next year, and I think they're going to take a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud.
Well, that's fair. But I think for this year, they're going to see what they have in him.
Yeah.
I think that he did what he did with pretty much nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had Brandon Cooks, which is better than some quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But I think, see what they got with him. Definitely don't go quarterback.
Yeah, he definitely deserves a shot.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see.
He proved that last year, especially for a 3rd rounder who played like a top 3 quarterback last year, top 3 rookie quarterback.
Especially with 5 first-round quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what they can do.
And you got all of those picks from the Browns.
Yeah.
So you have stuff for the future. So I wouldn't Texans are still at the...
They just have to build a culture.
They're at the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're still going to... I feel like they're building for the future, which is the right decision. And I see now a lot of these teams that we've been talking about are building for the future. And if I were to say which team would have the best future out of all of them, I'd say it's the Texans.
No,
wow.
I disagree.
Which team would you say?
I think the Jaguars are the best future.
Jaguars.
Yeah.
I think so.
I would...
Better than the Texans. What do the Texans have?
I think so.
I don't like either
The
of those
Texans
there.
aren't good now.
Who's the Texans' best young player?
Off the top of my head, I'd probably say they lost Justin Reed. The best young player.
I couldn't even name a good young
There's
player.
not much going on.
I honestly don't think I could tell you. But the thing is with the Jaguars, I think they're trying to win now for some
I
reason.
disagree. I think they're getting good
You
young
don't
players.
sign Christian Kirk to a $21 million deal
we'll get
if
to
you
that
don't want
next.
to win now.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that right now when we go to the Jaguars, who spent a boatload of money. They brought in 2 receivers for a combined $96 million.
Yeah.
Not smart, man.
They brought in Evan Ingram for $9 million. They brought in Brandon Sheriff for $50 million.
Yeah.
Foye Aluakon for about $45 million, and then Darius Williams for $30 million. That's what teams like the Rams. The Rams would do that.
Yeah.
They're winning now. The Jaguars are not going to win now.
Yeah.
You have all this cap space that you had. You could have saved it, maybe signed. I like the Brandon Sheriff signing. I knew Washington was going to bring him back. I like the Zay Jones signing for $24 million. But that Christian Kirk signing is just what baffles me. Because there's no way that you're a rebuilding team and you're going to go drop $21 million on a guy that's getting paid more than was getting paid more than like Stephon Diggs now.
Yeah.
Like who else? Mike Evans isn't even making $21 million. Cooper Kupp isn't even making $21 million.
It was definitely
Devontae Parker is making $21 million.
We'll get into that later. But that's stuff that winning teams would do. If you're a team that's literally picking at 1, I know you want to give help to Trevor Lawrence, but what help is Christian Kirk really going to do? He's not going to step up Trevor Lawrence from probably one of the worst rookie quarterback seasons we've seen since Peyton Manning to like a top 15 quarterback next year.
I also think though, like you're in a position where you've been losing for a long time, other than that 1 year, and it's like, you know what, we have the cap space, we might as well do something with it. Yeah. A lot of these guys are 1 year deals. A couple of them are multi-year deals, but you could probably get out of them a little bit quicker.
Yep.
So I think it could go. It's a double-edged sword. You could go either way. yeah, not the smartest move.
Yeah.
But also maybe worth a shot.
Yeah, and the reason why I went with the Texans on that is because they have all these draft picks from the Deshaun Watson trade. Jaguars don't have really picks for the
That's right.
future. They just have their normal picks that everyone gets.
Yeah.
So I still think the Texans can build around, trade up or down in the next couple of drafts and still find success. But we'll go to Jad on your thoughts about the Jaguars.
All right, so I mean Jacksonville. I know Dan's pretty high on them. I don't think there's much going on here. I think Trevor Lawrence was very underwhelming. I don't think that it's time to give up on him. I think it's definitely. I don't think anyone's saying that.
Definitely not.
But yeah, I guess you should try to surround your young quarterback with some guys. I think Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones. They're giving them weapons, I guess.
That's good stuff.
So I guess they're just kind of going in autopilot just to see what they can throw
Right.
and see what sticks on the wall.
Right.
But,
I think that's a good concept there. Yeah.
Yeah, I realized I just skipped over the Colts, so we'll go to Indianapolis, who traded for Matt Ryan. They also extended him. They got Mo Alley Cox they brought back on a pretty decent deal. They brought in Yannick Ngakoue, and I can't really think who else. Zaire Franklin, I
Matt
see.
Pryor.
Yeah, Matt Pryor.
Yep.
And Brandon Faison? I don't know how to say that, but I know that he's a pretty speedy guy. He was good on the Raiders last year. But do you think the Colts could compete with the Titans for the AFC South crown next year?
I think they could compete,
Mhm.
but I think if they don't make it, I think that they're an 8-9 team. I guess now, 9-8 team. I think they're in purgatory. I think they're going to be picking around pick 20 in every draft. It's not really going to move the needle at all. Matt Ryan's a decent quarterback. I think they should have kept Carson Wentz though. I think that recency bias. He had a really bad game against the Jaguars and they didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But if he played at least decent and then they ended up making the playoffs,
He would be on that team.
Carson Wentz is a fine quarterback.
Yeah.
You
Which
know,
is
and
why
I don't
I
think,
like that trade as a Washington fan.
Yeah, I don't think that they really needed to trade him. I think
Yeah.
that the general manager of the Colts and the front office let their ego get the best of them,
Definitely.
and they made that trade kind of out of impulse.
Yeah, there's a quote from Jim Irsay, the owner, who, talking about the Wentz trade, he said it was necessary. Like, we had to do it. Like, no, you didn't.
No.
You did not have to trade Carson Wentz. Yeah, he's making a lot of money. But he really almost got you to the playoffs, was 1 win away against a Jaguars team. Probably shouldn't have won that game, but you can't blame that all on Carson Wentz.
And you traded a first-round pick for him.
Yeah, their defense let up 30 points that game.
I also hear there's isn't there a curse type of thing going on there where the Colts just never win that game?
Oh
I'm
yeah,
pretty sure,
they've now lost 6 straight in
Yeah.
Jacksonville.
It's some weird
Oh.
Patriots playing the Dolphins.
Dolphins in Miami.
It's
Yeah.
some weird thing like that.
Yeah.
But
But the Colts, I think, are now on their 6th starting quarterback, and that'll start week 1 since really Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Actually.
I think for me, it'll be exciting to see Matt Ryan with Julio, with Taylor. I think they're a team that I'd like watching. I think they kind of play old fashioned football, kind of like the Patriots. So I don't mind watching them. I think they could compete with the Titans. I said it before last season. I think Derrick Henry, you don't give a running back this many touches in the regular season, especially in back-to-back years, and it's gonna catch up with him.
Yeah.
We saw in the playoff game. I hope we kind of see it with McCaffrey now. Just feeding a running back like that just does not work, and so I think the Colts might experience that a little bit if they try to just dog Taylor this whole year.
Okay.
So I think if they go with a more modern-ish offense and kind of use more of like a dual. They said they have Taylor still, yeah.
Yeah, Taylor.
So I think this Colts team really could be solid, and I could see them getting first place in that division.
Okay, you mentioned Matt Ryan with Julio. Did you mean like Michael Pittman?
Is Julio?
Julio's still a free agent.
I
Titans.
thought Julio got signed by the Colts.
Like now that you mentioned that, I wouldn't mind that at all if he went to the Colts. That
bring
would
it back.
actually be pretty good.
I
Imagine
really
you
thought that I was already a thing.
You got
Might
Pittman
just
and
get it
Julio on the
I
outside.
didn't think about that.
Is T.Y. Hilton still on the team? I haven't heard that name in like a
I
couple
think he
years.
is on. They were trying to trade him.
Yeah,
He is on.
Did
the
he
team,
retire?
I feel like he should. He's been in the league for 10 years.
Yeah, they lost Zach Pascal
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
Eagles. And not that he was anything crazy, but he picked up, I think, 600-something yards.
Yeah.
Like a solid player.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
rotation.
Yeah, he's still on the
for sure.
Colts. Wow, I really did think Julio was
Nah,
on
he
the
didn't.
Colts.
Nah, yeah, yeah.
I'm all for it though. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, we'll move on from the Colts to the Kansas City Chiefs, who lost in the Bengals last year in the AFC Championship. But I feel like they made some really good moves. They brought Juju Smith-Schuster in. They brought in Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They brought in Justin Reed, which I think is probably going to be a great replacement for Tyrann Mathieu, who's I'll give
He's
my
on
thoughts.
the outs,
Yeah.
yeah.
Orlando Brown, they franchise tagged him. I thought that was a great move bringing him back. And just some depth guys like Derek Nottie, Austin Wiley, and Elijah Lee, who are just guys that'll be there. So where do you guys think the Chiefs stand?
I think they got deeper. They definitely lost. Obviously, they lost Tyreek Hill, so they lost some of their top guys. I'm more of a fan of.
Mention that.
I'm more of a fan of keeping those top guys versus getting the depth. Juju's going to be a solid player.
Mm-hmm.
But think of the chemistry that Mahomes and a guy like Tyreek Hill had.
Yep.
I mean, now you lose that, and now you got to build that back up with Juju, with Corey Coleman, Valdez-Scantling. So I wasn't a fan of it. I don't know why Tyreek wanted to leave. I think that was a bad decision on his part.
I think he just wanted to be paid.
Yeah, but I mean,
like what are you gonna? Like it's money or winning.
A whole lot of money.
I bet
still
you.
got Kelsey.
I bet you in the Hall of Fame they don't account for how much money you made.
Yeah.
Go and how much rings you got.
So
Yeah,
if
I
they're
mean,
going to be a good team, they're obviously going to make the playoffs.
But
But that division is very, very
I
good.
totally forgot about how that division got.
That's what
I wouldn't be surprised if they're number 3 in that division next year.
Yeah.
Let me tell you that. I mean,
that might be pushing
hot take.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if they're 4.
I
Even
think their
with Mahomes
over-under is
involved.
12.5 right now, right?
Yeah, I think that's actually
I'd go
too
with the
much.
under there.
That's
Yeah.
too much.
Mhm.
I'd put them at like 10 right now.
So
Because looking at their schedule, they were the top seed in the AFC West last year. So that means they'll have the hardest teams in the.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably have to play the Bucks, and then the AFC East. So probably like the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And
they're not going to be able to
division.
walk. They're not going to be able to walk in the
No.
playoffs like last year.
Definitely not.
They're not going to be able to afford having negative stretches like they did last season.
Exactly. And we'll move on to another A. Did you?
I've
give your
got
2
a
cents
couple
about the
thoughts
Chiefs? My
here.
bad. My fault.
So I'm kind of torn with the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't see them being a borderline pretty okay team. Like I think this either all falls apart
Okay.
or Mahomes has a year that just says I'm the guy
Yeah.
in the
Wouldn't be
NFL.
surprised if the guy passed for like 5,000 yards,
If
4,000.
Mahomes gets an
MVP,
if Mahomes leads his team to the first place in that division and
MVP.
just proves that he's a guy, gets another MVP, I'd be all for it.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's gonna be an interesting thing to see how he can be without Hill. After it happened, I was just curious. So I looked at who's following who on Instagram. They are not following each other. So maybe they're a little
Mahomes and Hill.
Mahomes and Tyreek. So I'm just interested to see if he's mad about it. I'm sure as a quarterback, you don't want to lose a guy like Tyreek, who although he's probably not the best receiver in the NFL, I'd argue he has the biggest impact. So
Actually, I like that.
It's
Yeah.
not a bad thing.
I like that. It's not a bad
So we'll see, man. I'd love nothing more than Mahomes to just prove that he's the guy in the NFL now.
So the Chiefs, I think, are going to have a really tough year next year, whether it be missing the playoffs or if they make the playoffs. It's going to be a rough year for them.
Adversity.
And especially in the division, they're going to have tough matches, especially with the Raiders. I think a team that was just they did make the playoffs last year.
Yep.
After beating
No.
they beat the Chargers in that last game, right?
Oh, did
They
they
did.
made the
Yeah,
playoffs?
Chargers
Oh
did.
yeah, and they lost to the
Yeah,
Bengals.
correct. So the AFC West is still I think the best. They've become the best division.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Yep.
And the Raiders got better. I'm scrolling through the moves they made. It takes up half the page here. They got their biggest move was Devontae Adams. I think there's no question. They just gave Derek Carr, his former college teammate.
Yeah.
Bring in DeMarcus Robinson also. They bring in Chandler Jones. to
I'd
help
say
the
that's
edge.
their biggest move. Not
You
gonna
get
lie.
Chandler Jones.
This team had nothing
Bro,
other than
what?
I think that Devontae Adams was. Hear me out here. I think Devontae Adams will be picked early next year, and his production will fall off with no Aaron Rodgers.
So you're they lose Yannick Ngakoue, they get Chandler Jones. Bit of an
I
upgrade.
think Chandler
Were you
Jones
telling me that
is a
upgrading
guy.
from Henry Ruggs, who was your wide receiver one last year at the start,
Yep.
from week 1, to Devontae Adams is
Henry Ruggs was not their wide receiver one.
at
It
the
was
start of the
Hunter
season.
Renfrow. And they also had
Start of the season.
I don't know why I can't think of his name. The freaking tight end.
Darren Waller.
Waller.
Waller,
Yeah.
who's basically a wide receiver. I think they got to split touches between the three of them. I think, Devontae Adams is probably the best. The last couple of years was the best receiver in the NFL, but I could completely see him falling off. So I am low on Devontae Adams.
If anything, I think now is the time that Devontae Adams just proves that he's still
Really?
wide receiver one, because he's been in Green Bay where the production hasn't really been great outside of him. Now he has good weapons around him, and imagine he still puts up similar numbers. Like that's
Hey, we'll see.
distinguishing.
All we can do is wait.
Yeah, right. Only time will tell.
Yeah, so the defense got better. They also brought in
A lot
Kyler
better.
Fackrell. They got Rocky Ya-Sin in a trade. They brought in Anthony Averett. And they just really just decided, hey, we see the Chargers bringing in their guys. We see the Broncos bringing in their guys. Why not? Let's get a slice of that. Let's see if we can bolster our team too. And that's exactly what they did. Dan, I'll go to you. Where do you think they stand right now?
The Raiders?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so tough to say. I'm going to say that they're going to be the worst team in that division.
Right.
I think they're going to be worse, and that's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're going to be worse than the Chiefs. They're going to be worse than the Chargers.
To be honest,
And
like,
they're
the
gonna
worst team in that division could probably beat the best team in the NFC North and the East.
I would say
Without a doubt.
100% they can.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
It's not even a debate there.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll move on now to the Chargers.
Yeah.
Right? They brought back Mike Williams.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in Khalil Mack. They brought in J.C. Jackson. These are all huge moves.
Exactly.
They got better too. They need to improve the defense. They still have the draft. They have picked 17 in the draft.
If I were to put a team to beat in the AFC right now, it'd be the Chargers.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
That's a bold one there.
I still think they're better all around. I think Herbo got snubbed out of a playoff appearance last year. I think he was a top 5 quarterback last year, I think. He's going to be an MVP candidate next year. Just got all around weapons. You got Gerald Everett's going to be a good addition to the tight end position. You still got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and with Jalen Guyton, I think, in the slot, or is it Josh Palmer? Both of those guys, I think, are going to step up, have great seasons. Wouldn't be surprised if he goes for 5,000, 40 touchdowns, something like that.
Yeah.
Would not be surprised.
Maybe
at all.
an MVP candidate.
Yeah, if I can add a little bit here. You know, I think compared to the other teams in this division, I would say the Chargers will probably be last. I'd put the Raiders one spot over the Chargers.
Wow.
You know, J.C. Jackson got way too big of a contract for what kind of player he is. He's a ball hawk.
Agree to disagree.
I said he was a ball hawk last year, and you guys kind of were like, I said he was an elite ball hawk last year, and you guys said I was crazy. I would say he's the most elite ball hawk in as of quarterbacks go in the league. But you don't pay a cornerback like that or Trevon Diggs, which also is up there.
Yeah.
That kind of cornerback won money like he got, and he had trouble stopping wide receiver ones last year. So I think that's kind of too big of a contract there. Also, like, stay with the Patriots, you know.
Yeah, I think what's also big to note is that the Chargers were really bad run defense last year. They were last in the league.
Yeah.
J.C. Jackson's one of the best run defending corners.
And we keep forgetting about Khalil Mack,
Yeah.
who they also got, who somehow
And
keeps
one
getting
guy
thrown
that I
out.
would love to see on the Chargers next year is Jordan Davis.
I was just
Yep.
going to say. Yep.
I had him going to the Chargers in my mock
It's the
draft.
best fit in
I
the
like
that.
draft.
If the Chargers were to get Jordan Davis, or maybe just another defensive tackle, I haven't done enough scouting to see anyone outside of Jordan
Leal?
Davis, honestly.
DeMarcus Liu, he's the Texas guy.
Yeah.
Texas
that'd
A&M,
be
I
weird
think,
stuff.
yeah. But especially at 17, you get Jordan Davis at that pick, you're like one of the best teams.
Yes. easily.
Regardless of.
I
think
think
that's
they're gonna have to trade up to get Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis is
Yeah.
a freak athlete.
Yeah.
He's someone that you can't just get in the
I
draft.
could
I know
see
we
like
had a little
the-
debate
the
about
Vikings may want to get Jordan Davis. The D-line's been kind of poor.
this. I don't think he falls
Maybe
out of the top 10. Him or Sauce
Really?
Gardner.
Wow. I like that. The Chargers also lost Kaiser White at linebacker. He went to the
He did,
Eagles. I think he was a huge part of that defense last year. Him and other linebacker Kenneth Murray.
Yeah.
But when Kenneth Murray went down, Kaiser White stepped in. He had a great year. I think he earned that 1-year, $5 million deal.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a big loss. I think they'll probably address that in the draft or maybe another free agent signing. Move on to the other Los Angeles team who had just an overall great offseason, I think.
Wild.
Yeah. Even though you, who'd they lose anyone?
Von Miller.
Von Miller, they lost Von Miller. You still bring in Bobby Wagner and Allen Robinson. You kept Matthew Stafford. They still have, they got Joe Noteboom, who's going to do pretty good on their O-line. You had Andrew Whitworth.
They also
retire.
lost, Andrew Whitworth.
Yeah.
Right.
And Brian Allen. So they basically lost Whitworth and they upgraded it 2 positions.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. And they just
They'll
came
be
off the
there
Super
next
Bowl.
year. Not much to say there.
Not much to
You
say.
think they'll be there next year?
Yeah,
the
maybe
Super
not
Bowl?
Super Bowl, but they'll be up there. They'll be competing for it.
I wouldn't be surprised if they.
I'll say this.
Shocked.
The NFC got worse.
Definitely.
And
NFC's now
the Rams got better.
Yeah.
So
That's
the Rams
scary.
were already the best team in the NFC, and the NFC just got worse, and the Rams got better.
I mean, technically the best
That's
team in the
it.
NFL.
Yeah.
And they got better, so.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But we'll move on to probably the team that made the most moves in the AFC.
I'd say the most interesting offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was the Miami Dolphins,
Yep.
who most
Weird
notably
one.
signed Teddy Bridgewater. They traded for Tyreek Hill. They also brought in Cedric Wilson. They got Mike Gesicki on a franchise tag. Teron Armstead, I think, might have been the best free agency signing in the NFL this offseason.
Yeah.
Got a Landon Roberts back. They got Keon Crossan in to sort of help their secondary out a little bit. But the Dolphins are in that AFC East, which I think got progressively better. Each team got a little bit better in that division. I really like to see that. But the Dolphins were only a couple wins out of the playoffs last year.
Yep.
I think they're good enough to make it next year. You still have Jalen Waddle coming off a great rookie season.
Yep.
You got Myles Gaskin in the backfield. Tyreek, obviously. But then there's that one spot where you just question it, and it's Tua.
Yep.
The guy coming out of college was like the next him.
Russell Wilson.
Yeah. But now, after 2 years, you're like,
what's the ceiling there?
Yeah. Is he really like going to play up to that level?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to come down to him. They have all the weapons around him on the O-line, at the receiver position. They're stacked. Even on defense, they're pretty good.
They are stacked. I love it.
They have all the tools to make the playoffs. They're a quarterback away, right? And if Tua can be that quarterback, then they're in the playoffs. If not, then they're not in the playoffs. And they're still in a bad position because they're not going to be picking that high in the draft.
Yeah.
The team around Tua is too good to be like a top 5 pick in the draft where they get a Bryce Young or
they're
something.
They're going to be in that purgatory I think you mentioned with the Colts, right? Yep, they're going to be in that purgatory.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think they're a young team, so I think a purgatory for 1 year isn't the worst thing there. I was a little confused by the Bridgewater trade. I don't really know why Bridgewater was on there. I think he still wants to be a starting quarterback.
Oh, he's Bridgewater and like Tyrod Taylor, those guys where they'll step into a team with the young QB. If they don't play up to expectations, they'll just swoop in and
See, then at the same time, I don't know why the Dolphins would do that, because that puts pressure on their guy. They should just be telling Tua, you are our guy.
That could be a bit
give him some confidence.
Yeah, or on the flip side, you give him competition and say, look, we brought in this guy who's known to be taking spots. You beat him, you're our guy.
Yeah.
That's what I think they're trying to do. And who was their backup? Jacoby Brissett did that to Tua last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Fitzpatrick did it the year before.
Yep. So Tua's been through this.
Fitzpatrick freed him, and he's still there, though.
Exactly. So, I mean... We'll move on from the Dolphins. We'll go to the Minnesota Vikings, who have had a mid-off season. It's just been... Like, I don't know. I mean, they got Zadarius Smith.
Jordan Hicks is
solid.
It was a solid deal. Harrison Phillips also on the D-line. Well, I mean, nothing more to say about Minnesota.
Yeah. They got a new coach. It'd be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to monitor the quarterback situation. They did extend Kirk Cousins for, I think, a 1-year deal.
Yep.
Like 30
Kevin
mil.
O'Connell, the coach, right? Rams guy?
Yep, Kevin O'Connell. So it'd be interesting to monitor how the coach works, how the quarterback works, and how Justin Jefferson
Then again,
works.
they didn't really need to do that much to secure that NFC, what is that?
North.
NFC North.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say they're probably the favorite to win that division.
I don't think it's crazy.
The Packers are
still
You think the Packers are?
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be 1 and 2.
I have them taking Drake London in my mock draft because I think London's a guy that can come in and
the Vikings
be a
or
great
Packers?
Vikings.
Okay.
I have Drake London as a great slot guy. He played outside in college a lot, but I still think he can transition to slot.
It's a pretty big slot.
Yeah, I've seen the comparisons to Mike Evans. I know we talked about this last Saturday, but he has 4.5 speed at 6'4", and he has the hands of Devontae Adams, I
I
think.
think they could take a corner. A Sauce
Could go
Gardner
corner,
or
Sauce
Derek
Gardner.
Stanley.
The Vikings always take corners. It's like their thing.
But they're another team
But
where
it's not really.
they're not super talented
Jeff
all
Gladney.
around. They have solid players, but they could really go best player available.
Yeah.
A bunch of different positions, really.
And I don't think their biggest need is wide receiver in any sort.
Definitely not their biggest need. I just think it was something just to help Kirk Cousins out because the rest of their team is like whenever I don't think Kirk Cousins is the reason that they don't make the playoffs. It's just everything around him.
Yeah.
I think maybe you could help the O-line out a little bit. Maybe get
a little bit. I mean, they had a good. Who'd they get? Who's the tackle they got last year? Really good.
Darisaw?
Yeah, Darisaw.
Darisaw's good.
He was surprised.
He's on the
a good
Vikings?
pick. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking
I was
Slater on
Slater,
the chart.
Slater. Those are the two.
That's right, Darisaw. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on from the Vikings. I know Jad's going to be excited about this one. I'll just let him take the lead on this.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the offseason was looking pretty down for me. I was like, wow, the Patriots are really just going to coast here because everyone's in win now and kind of go in the other direction and wait out the storm. But then Trent Brown re-signed, which was a massive deal. They played it so smart. They waited for him to test the market, and then once he wasn't getting the offers he wanted, they signed him on a much cheaper deal. Very Belichickian type of contract there. Then we brought in that cornerback from the Texans after we lost JC. which was kind of just the peak of my depression over this offseason. We traded the hair himself. We traded Winovich, which was kind of like a bummer for me. But then we hit a peak there. We traded for Devontae Parker, and we talked about it a little bit today. Devontae Parker will be our wide receiver 1. We have a bunch of this is a team with Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, a bunch of number 2s.
Right.
Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry as the tight ends. Hunter Henry, a beast. Jonnu Smith hopefully has a comeback year next year. So I think it's a perfect spot for Devontae Parker. And what I loved most about this move is everyone was saying, Danny Amendola, that little gremlin, was saying, everyone just came to the Patriots for Tom. And this move just proved that people weren't just here for Tom, because Devontae Parker made it clear he wants to go to the Patriots. So it kind of just felt good there.
Yeah, I thought it was a weird trade that they trade him.
He asked, he specifically said, I want to go play.
Yeah, because I know the Cowboys were interested and they almost got him.
So, I mean, I think this team will be on the up. They had an amazing draft last year, which has kind of gone not talked about as much as it should. Yeah. Their best draft in a couple of years. Mm-hmm. Mac Jones has just been kicked to the curb for young quarterbacks. He's got no ceiling, all that. I think this team, they're probably not going to compete in that AFC to win a Super Bowl. Yeah. But they're a team I promise nobody wants to play. Just the size they have on offense. They have playoff football. They play playoff football all year long. They got Ramondre Stevenson, who's just a dog. Damian Harris is a dog. And now they got a bunch of big old wide receivers. And now N'Keal Harry Doughboy can get out of here. Move on from him. But it's on the up. And I'm happy about it.
All right.
I think in the draft, we won't be going wide receiver. I was kind of always pretty...
I had them taking Olave.
Yeah, it's an easy pick to select a wide receiver for them, but I don't think that Bill Belichick will ever do that again. Yeah. I think he drafted N'Keal Harry, and that didn't work out, and he's just done with that. I think we definitely need a cornerback.
Okay.
I mean, I'd love Sauce, but he's not going to drop that far. Love Stingley. Who's the kid out of Florida?
Kyrie Elam.
I like Andrew Booth.
Elam's a good fit. Booth is a good fit.
No, it's Clemson.
I think Booth is actually the best. He's bigger, right? They love their bigger cornerbacks, those run-stopping cornerbacks, like, for example, Booth.
Yeah. I like Booth to the Patriots.
So,
that's something I have.
So I think they definitely go cornerback first.
So we only got about 10 teams left, so we'll just try and keep it a little short and simple at least. I'm trying to get a lead a little bit. Yeah. But we'll go on to the Saints, who were in the running for Deshaun Watson. They brought back Jameis Winston. They also got Marcus May. Nothing really else. I mean, probably just...
I thought Marcus May was a pretty good pick, good pick up there.
Marcus Williams left. So
not a very expensive contract. Yeah. And Marcus May was a pretty good player for the Jets.
And who knows where this money's coming from, but the Rams are doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know where, but
it'd be interesting to see how the Saints go. They made that interesting trade with the Eagles.
Yep. They also they're interviewing Tyrann Mathieu as we speak.
Yep. So. I saw that tweet.
So who knows? Could the Saints either pick a quarterback at, what do they have, 16?
16 and 19.
Or could they use those picks to trade up?
Or I'd say ride with Jameis potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know why not.
I think they should for this year.
I think they should ride with Jameis, and if they suck, Jameis is only on a 2-year deal. You maybe bring in Bryce Young or CJ.
But in that case, why would you make that trade?
I think
what do you really gain from that? This draft isn't.
I think maybe Michael Thomas doesn't want to come back, and you want to get your next receiver.
I like that.
I had him taking
go get Garrett Wilson.
Who they hop? Because I know they hopped a spot.
Who's 18?
No,
18 was them. The 17, I think, was the
Chargers.
So
maybe that would be a Jordan Davis type of thing there.
Maybe they try and move up. I could see like the Commanders moving down. I don't think the Commanders need that.
I think the Eagles might take a receiver, and then the Saints might take a receiver too. Like, I don't know if they really gain that.
The draft is going to be, I think, pretty good.
And we'll have a separate pod about mock draft. Definitely our thoughts for every team.
May do a little live stream for that. Maybe we'll think about that though. But we'll move on to an NFC East team. Go to the Giants, who had some pretty good moves. I think they got Tyrod Taylor to back up Daniel Jones. They brought in Matt Breida. They did, they have been sort of reportedly shopping James Bradberry. What are your just like simple thoughts about maybe trading away James Bradberry?
I don't know. I mean, he's got a big salary. Mm-hmm. They have a solid secondary, I think. So they don't really need him. They could always draft too. They have 2 picks in the top 10. Yep. So I think I like what the Giants have going for him. It's just going to be about Daniel Jones. Can he be better? And if he can't be better, can they get a better quarterback?
This is officially the last year for Daniel Jones.
Yes.
I think definitely.
Has to be.
I thought last year was.
Yeah.
2 years more than Dwayne Haskins got. I think definitely it's...
I mean, right now he's 2 years away from being 2 years away. Is the story of his career.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. Not much. At least they got rid of
What's his name?
Tatum.
Ingram.
Ingram.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's W for them. So
Yeah.
let's see what they can
Yeah.
fill in for that spot.
So go to the other New York team, the Jets, who honestly had a pretty good offseason. They got in Uzama, they got Conklin, so they got 2 really good tight ends there to help out Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Got Laken Tomlinson, who's I think one of the best signings I think I've seen from them in a while. They got DJ Reed for a pretty good deal. I think maybe a bit of an overpay, but you got to pay to get what you want.
Yeah.
And Jordan Whitehead, I think, might have been the steal of free agency, who's I think he's a great safety. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm probably one of the only guys that is high on Jordan Whitehead. But in the playoffs last year, I thought he played really good. And he got a bag. 2 years, 15 mil almost. I mean,
Yeah, I think ultimately for the Jets, it comes down to their quarterback.
Yep.
I think if Zach Wilson starts to figure it out, they'll look better, and if he doesn't,
Yeah.
they won't. So it's pretty much just
They're
that.
still a couple years away.
Yeah.
They just want to see. They just have to see
they see
improvement.
progression. That's all.
They just have to see progression from Zach Wilson. That's what they should be rooting for this season.
Yeah.
Not a playoff appearance. The AFC's too good. I should have mentioned with the Patriots. I think the Patriots are going to be the 3rd best team in that division. They're not as good.
I wouldn't doubt this.
They're not as good as the Bills. They're not as good as the
Yeah.
Dolphins.
We'll have a separate video going through our standings after the draft, probably.
Yeah,
but
the Jets are in no position at all to make the playoffs, even consider it. So I think that they should.
I think
just
it's
hope for
probably the
improvement.
safest bet in the divisions, all of them, that the Jets probably have the 4th spot.
Yeah.
Like I think it's pretty much the
Yeah.
only lock
Yeah.
out of any team.
Definitely.
So
yeah, we'll move on to the Philadelphia Eagles, who didn't really bring in anyone, but they got Hassan Reddick, which I really liked. They got in, they brought back Anthony Harris and Zach Pascal, which were 2 pretty good signings, the Hassan Reddick and Zach Pascal. But as I said earlier, they're the team to beat in the NFC East solely because of their offense. I'm a big fan of their offense. It's crazy to say, but I love Jalen Hurts now. He led them to the playoffs last year. Devontae Smith is still there. You're gonna have. I think they should spend a pick on a receiver. Maybe bring in John Mechie. I could see them taking Jameson Williams. Also, maybe just giving him some time to recover. The defense is solid. I got them to the playoffs last year. They didn't lose anyone in particular, other than Singleton, I think, right?
Yeah, Singleton.
Yeah. So.
But they brought in Hassan Reddick. They brought in Kaiser White, too.
Kaiser White. Yep. So I still think that they're a really good team. Or not really good. They're a pretty good team.
Yeah.
I don't think the Cowboys have I mean, they could go they're neck and neck. But what are your thoughts, especially as a Philadelphia fan?
Look, the reason the Eagles made the playoffs last year is because they played horrible competition. They beat, I think, one team over 500, and it was the Saints, who basically were 1 game above 500, and they were kind of a fake team. And they beat the Saints when they had Trevor Siemian at quarterback. So it was really no achievement at all. And I think it might be a similar situation this year. I like the Hassan Reddick signing a lot. He's a Philly guy. Kaiser White's also a Philly guy. It's just going to come down to Jalen Hurts. Can he prove to be an adequate passer?
Yeah.
They have a run-first offense where they just pound the rock.
Yeah.
They're going to continue that RB back committee. They brought back Boston Scott. They still have Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard.
Okay.
I'm interested to see what they do in the draft. They can go a boatload of different directions. Pretty deep linebacker draft. They only have 2 picks this year, and I got to say, I really like the trade that they did with the Saints. They did sacrifice 1 pick, or I guess 16 and 19 this year, and they got back 18.
Yep.
So they'll have 2 picks this year. They'll have 2 picks next year. But I think the Eagles won that trade because that would have been a pretty fair trade there. But they also acquired a 3rd-round pick this year and a 2nd-round pick in 2024 for basically no reason.
Yeah, in my mock draft, I had them taking Devin Lloyd out of Utah.
Yeah.
And you said that, especially at linebacker, they need a little bit of help after losing Singleton. But you have that core with still Fletcher Cox there. You got now Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat. And even Derek Barnett, Brandon
getting
Graham.
older. They brought back Derek Barnett too, which I'm not a huge fan of.
I feel like if you add Devin Lloyd back there, that front seven's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Chad, your thoughts?
I think if the Eagles draft a wide receiver with a 1st-round pick, at what point are you just going for wide receivers every single year? There's so much more. Teams get so high on wide receivers when the draft comes around, and 1 or 2 of them usually succeed in the 1st round. So I think I'm not big on drafting wide receivers early because of how many wide receivers are out there. It's kind of growing into, for me personally, wide receiver and running back are both starting to be positions that you can find them anywhere.
Yeah.
Of course, there's elite of the elite that you want to get early, but I don't think they should be going wide receiver this high.
Yeah.
I think Jalen Hurts is where Daniel Jones was last year, where it's we're all kind of saying it's his last year. But I think next year would be his last year.
No.
I disagree
think
with
so?
that.
Well,
This
I
was-
think the reasoning for making that trade and acquiring a future first-round pick is because next year's quarterback draft, you have C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. So that gives you ammo to move up for
Alright,
one of
that's
those
fair.
guys
I didn't
and a
know.
better quarterback draft. So
Yep.
I think it was the right move. I'm
Yeah.
a little bit worried about Jalen Hurts. I want him to be the guy because I would rather use those picks on helping him.
Exactly.
But I also think like they have Devontae Smith, who had a pretty good rookie year.
Still got Dallas Goedert there.
They have Dallas Goedert, but I think that they do need to get a second receiver. I
Yeah.
wanted to have him through free agency, but
Yeah.
you know it
I
didn't.
feel like a guy that they should have targeted was Devontae Parker, especially after the Tyreek trade.
I wanted
Maybe
Devontae
T.Y.
Parker.
Hilton.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
other thing
think-
is
I don't
like
think-
I don't think that really moves the needle. They brought in Zach Pascal. I just don't think people really want to play. Wide receivers don't want to play in a run-first offense
Yeah.
with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts,
Yeah.
who's not a great thrower.
One guy that I saw like in rumors was AJ Brown
I saw
being
that.
tossed around.
Yeah.
And the Eagles was a destination, but I didn't think that
Yeah,
would
they're
happen.
not. They're not
That
trading.
didn't progress
It
at
just
all.
came out today.
Yeah.
They're not going to
Yeah.
trade.
DK.
DK I also
Yeah.
saw, but I don't think they're going to
Yeah,
trade
no,
him.
I
They
don't
said
think
that openly. Well, we'll move on to the Steelers, who probably they obviously had Big Ben retiring. They got Mitch Trubisky, which I thought was pretty good. They got Miles Jack, which I really liked.
Huge.
I think that was a really good signing.
Underrated.
It was really
100%.
weird that the Jags released him. I think they upgraded with Foye Oluokun though, so I guess it wasn't that weird.
I wouldn't say it's an upgrade there. I was
I
just
think
kind of sideways.
No,
I don't know
I think
what's going-
Oluokun's really good against the run, especially. That's where Jack sort of struggled. He was more of a pass coverage
Okay.
guy. But when we look at the Steelers, that AFC North is pretty hard. We've
Yeah.
said that with the other three teams. Do you still think that they're competing for that division, or do you think they're just like sort of like we're just going to be
No.
where we are, maybe build for next year, and
We're just gonna have to assess it after this year, or maybe during this year.
Yeah.
Trubinsky could be good. He could be horrible.
Yeah.
I think that they're the worst team in that division, which isn't necessarily bad
Yeah,
because
it's
that
not
is a
bad.
good
Yeah.
division.
it's like the Raiders?
Yeah, I think the Steelers will win 7 to 10
7 to
games,
9 games. I wouldn't.
7 to 9 games.
Yeah, that's not.
I would say
not ridiculous.
nothing more than like 500 or just above it.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see how that
Yeah.
goes. Kind of assess from there.
Yeah, I like all
Check
that. We'll see. I don't hate the Mitch Trubisky signing. You know, just see what they can do.
Yeah.
Worth a shot.
Yeah.
And they needed to take a shot on a younger guy.
Yeah.
I think also a big thing for them is addition from subtraction
Mm-hmm.
because Big Ben was the worst quarterback in the NFL last year.
Mm.
I'd say so. So I think that would be
Yeah.
good.
So our next team with the San Francisco 49ers, who have been in trade talks with Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously the past couple months, but nothing has really progressed. They sort of missed on the Colts, Commanders, even the Bucks. I've seen, but they made one big signing, which is Charvarius Ward for 3 years, $40 million. I didn't really like that signing at all.
No.
I think you need a corner. Why him out of all people? You could have even looked toward the draft.
Yeah.
But there's nothing really much, I think, to talk about the 49ers. Are they still going to compete, you think?
I think they'll be competing. I
Okay.
just think that they're in a really bad position having Trey Lance. They traded 2 first-round
we
picks to
talked
move up to 3 for an unproven Lance, and you could have gotten maybe Russell Wilson or Deshaun
Yeah.
Watson. Like they're in such a bad position because now they feel pressure to trade Garoppolo and start Lance because
And
they
if
traded.
Lance doesn't work out,
And if he doesn't
Yeah,
work
they're
out,
just like, what do we do now?
you're screwed.
Yeah.
You were in such a good position if you don't have Lance
Yeah.
and you have those picks.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Exactly.
way better position.
So you got anything else to add?
yeah, I like all that. I like
Yeah.
all that.
So we'll go on to the Seattle Seahawks, who obviously traded away Russell Wilson, one-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, and they brought in, who did they bring in? Who was it? Uchenna Nwosu. I actually thought that was a really good signing, and cheaper than Bobby Wagner would have been if they kept him. And they had Bobby Wagner leaving, Russell Wilson leaving. They brought in Noah Fant and who else?
Drew Lock, they
Drew
got
Lock, yeah,
Shelby
they got Drew
Harris.
Lock, Shelby Harris, and they re-signed Condre Diggs. I definitely think the Seahawks are in rebuild mode. It's kind of obvious if you haven't seen it already. But I still think they're in a good position to win like 5-6 games next year. Not be too out of it. I mean,
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're in rebuild mode. When I think rebuild,
Yeah.
I think
they
they're
got
at the
a lot of
stage
picks from the Broncos.
when you're a good team and then you're going into rebuild mode, you're just breaking everything down. But they signed some guys. Uchenna Nwosu, he's a pretty good guy. I mean, so I think they're kind of like trying to tippy-toe around it for right now. I think Noah Fant can catch a lot of balls. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, like it's not the worst place. So if
Not horrible.
they get a rookie quarterback in there,
Yeah, and again,
rookie
I
quarterback
told
maybe
you guys,
shows up.
In my mock draft, I had them taking Desmond Ridder,
Yeah, he did.
and that was probably one of the weirdest pick that you
Yeah.
guys gave me. Like you're like Desmond Ridder.
Maybe I don't know about Ritter. Maybe Pickett. I could see them being a Pickett team if they just want to see what they
I
can.
mean,
do
they
with
are.
this
They
team.
do like their small quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I had Russell Wilson for like 10 years, so We'll see how the Seahawks.
I don't think Pete Carroll wants to go through that.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. So we'll move on to Super Bowl winner from 2 years ago, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who lost Tom Brady for 29 days, and then Buddy just decided to come on back. So they brought back Leonard Fournette and Chris Godwin. They brought in Russell Gage, which I thought was huge. They got Shaq Mason via trade, Jensen, and Carlton Davis, and they signed Logan Ryan.
Yep.
If any two teams improved the most in the NFC, it's the Rams and the Bucks, who literally faced off in the NFC champion. No,
No, it was before.
yeah, they
Who's the
faced
NFC champion? Oh, 49ers.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But the 49ers and Bucks literally were the two best teams
They're
in
gonna be
the
the two
NFL.
best
I think they were the
teams.
two best
Yeah.
teams.
Without a
The
doubt.
Bucks could have played the Bengals and won in that Super Bowl last year. But I mean, there's really
It's
they're
crazy
still
how
good.
stacked these teams
Yeah.
are getting. Like
Yeah.
you never saw us in the NFL before.
Right.
It's literally just become the NBA.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the Tennessee Titans, who had a bit of a weird offseason. They released Julio Jones. They had A.J. Brown in trade rumors. I even saw Ryan Tannehill in trade rumors for a little while. Just you guys probably didn't see a lot of it. It was probably smoke. They brought in Robert Woods via trade for a sixth. I thought that was a great trade. Even though he's coming off an ACL tear, I actually like the trade a lot. He's not Julio Jones, obviously. But I see Jad, you're shaking your head. What are your thoughts?
You know,
on
I
that?
have some history with Robert Woods. He's not
That's right. I
he's
forgot.
not my favorite receiver in the NFL. But, you know, we'll see what the Titans can do. As I said before, I'm not a big Derrick Henry fan.
Mhm.
I love watching him, but I don't love all the touches he's getting. I think the thing I've seen with running backs is you need to play them like the Saints have played Kamara,
Mhm.
with a lot of their touches being split between the air and the ground. Like, Kamara is an elite guy,
Yeah.
but he's getting like 10 to 15 rushes a game.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you do when you have such a high paycheck for a running back.
Yeah.
Just maintain them, and I don't think the Titans have been doing that.
Yeah.
So I think maybe this last year was a wake-up call, and maybe they start lightening the load for him over the regular season, then just unleash him
I don't
in the playoffs.
What are your
So,
thoughts?
yeah.
You got anything else to add?
They're competing for the
It's
top of that division. They brought in Harold Landry, or was he there?
He had
He was there, so they
re-signed.
re-signed him to a huge
Yep.
deal. I mean, I don't know. I think that they'll win the division. I'll say it. I don't think Ryan
It's not that-
Tannehill is
yeah, it's
crazy.
not that crazy to say they're in a bad division.
Exactly. So not much. They're kind of a boring team in my opinion.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we got the Washington Commanders, who probably the most notable thing they did was change their name. They didn't really. I mean,
Wentz.
Carson Wentz,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay.
I like the trade as a Washington fan. I loved it. I thought it was an upgrade from Heineke, even though I've seen people say Heineke's better than Wentz. No, he's not.
No.
No
I
shot.
just-
No shot.
I watched every game last year. There's no chance that.
Andrew Norwell's solid, too.
I like that signing. I
Yeah.
thought he's gonna be a good replacement for Brandon Sheriff.
Sure.
O-line's gonna be pretty solid. It was like top 10 in pass block and run block last year. But I just still think we need that number 2 for Terry McLaurin. And I don't think Curtis Samuel is that guy.
You think they'll draft?
No.
I think they're
really?
gonna draft.
Wow.
Either that or they look to help their defense. They go safety like Kyle Hamilton. But I think if I were them, I'd trade down. I think the Saints are a great prospect because I think the Saints would want to trade up for someone.
Could be.
I think you trade down, you get like Chris Olave at like 16 or 19, whatever it is, and get another third. Still pick a solid lineman or a safety, but my ideal pick would be Garrett Wilson at 11.
Yeah.
That's my favorite prospect for him for them in this draft.
I thought you were big on Kyle Hamilton.
I was big on Kyle Hamilton before his combine sort of tanked him a little bit.
It did.
But then I looked at like our receivers. And I saw Curtis Samuel. We're paying him $11 million to have 34 total yards.
Not great.
So I was like, come on, like
No, but he can have a bounce back.
3 Ohio
A lot of
State
injuries.
receivers.
that would be pretty. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I'd love that. But yeah,
Alright.
so
Alrighty.
I just thank you guys so much for
Wrap it
listening.
up,
We've
man.
been recording for about an hour and a half now, so we'll probably trim this down for you guys. And we've probably been like a little like set on like the schedule. Like, what are we thinking? Like maybe like 1 or 2 episodes a week. So obviously not as much as we did before.
We like recording them, and if you
Yeah,
like watching
we do
them,
love-
we'll bring
yeah,
them
we'll
out
Keep
there.
pumping
Of
them out.
course.
I love the draft. I know Nishant knows it's my
Yeah.
favorite. My favorite thing
thing.
in
I
all
like that.
sports.
I like
The
that.
draft is my
I like that
favorite
a lot.
event. So I'm a big fan of the draft. I love mock drafts. Everything about it. I've already been looking at 2023 mock drafts. So
Grayson McCall.
I'm excited for that. But we'll definitely get some draft content out.
And this is our first official episode in the studio, yeah? Or like that'll be going up on like Spotify
with
and
some
Apple
decent
Music.
volume.
Correct. So, and we should have this studio for like at least a couple episodes. Usually we'll be like at our houses just recording because we don't have time during the day. But these will be for like special events. We may live stream some stuff. But again, we just want to thank you whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or if you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you for the views. Our social links will be in the links of our bios, and follow us on all social medias. As for Nishant,
Danny?
J Money.
thank you guys. Peace.